Welcome viewers, nice to have you back. This is Frederick Noronha and the program we are at is Literary Goa, where we look at books, authors and people studying various aspects related to Goa. Today with us we have Sebanti Chatterjee, who is known in the last few years at least for her work on choirs, Western musical choirs in two places of India, that's Goa and Shillong. And Sebanti has many interesting things to tell us about. Her book is coming out shortly. Sebanti, introduce your work.
Yeah, thank you, Frederick, for having me today. And so, my book is titled Choral Voices, an ethnographic study of sound and sacrality, ethnographic imaginations of sound and sacrality. Like you rightly pointed out, my focus has been on choirs in Goa and Shillong. I am a sociologist, so I'm not a musician. So the lens I use to study the communities in the society has been through sound. And specifically, I have chosen choirs to look at the ideas of faith, ideas of everyday musical practices, and so on and so forth.
That's an unusual topic. How did you get involved with it? How did it interest you? Because it's quite a niche subject, an important one, but a niche one nonetheless.
Yeah, so as you would recall, I have come to Goa before also, even during my earlier studies for my MPhil and so on and so forth. And so music has always been something that has piqued my interest. And so I used to learn classical guitar when I was more than a teenager, but yeah. And then I wanted to look at what is sociology of music. So there was something we were learning all about these classical sociologists, and then there we found that German sociologists like Max Weber and Zimmel also wrote about art, leisure, and music. So I said, why not? Why not, look at that aspect of life? And that's how I initially got started. But at a more serious level, for my doctoral dissertation, I wanted to look at something that would give me an insight into what is the idea of sacred, not just for a person who inhabits that sacred world, but to an outsider or to an onlooker who is observing the sacrality.
That's interesting, and of course, it has been a long journey for you. We know you as this young researcher who has been working very hard on getting out the facts, getting out the information, and it's quite a challenging field because any of us would find it hard to understand. Tell us about your journey. Tell us about your journey, when it started, where it took you, first for your MPhil, then for your PhD.
Yeah. So the thing is, during my MPhil, I was also working with this German organization, the Goethe Institute in Calcutta, and they were doing a teachers training program about how Western classical music is taught, or in the sense how they would want to give a guideline in a way, in a format, if the Indian teachers would want to be introduced to what are the elementary forms of teaching music. So some parts of it had worked, some parts of it had not worked, but it was nonetheless it was a nice opportunity for various institutes across Calcutta, Bombay, Goa and Bangalore to come together and start dialogues. And that's how I also got introduced to many musicians from Kala Academy actually.
Yes.
And and then from there I got slowly, I always follow the snowball research method in sociology, apart from ethnography, where we immerse ourselves in the field and either take on participant observation, which in my case, I actually sang with the choirs.
Which one?
I sang with Goa University Choir. Luckily there was an audition that was going on. I was clueless how I'll do all this because I'm not a singer. Like, of course, I don't sing like that. And then I initially tried to learn cello, thinking that, okay, I'll somehow, find myself in the ensemble if they come and I'll just hang out on the side. But there was an opening, like an audition for an open public audition for Goa University Choir. and I somehow managed to get the soprano voice. I was mezzo soprano later, I found out, but I got that. So then that was how I actually, found
Yeah.
myself within the choir, learning about different kinds of voices, like which I later describe in my thesis also, and now the book, because what is a recital voice? What is a microphone voice? What is basically, what is a rehearsal voice? They were so different, and we don't think about those different qualities of voice when we are actually practicing. And these were some of the technical things that I learned. Yeah, so I don't know.
What attracted you to Goa? You thought Goa was something different, was something unique. Goa and Shillong, these two places. Why?
Yeah, so the thing is that I have actually, like I mentioned, even for my previous study, I had chosen Goa as one of the locations. At that point of time, my earlier work dealt with Calcutta, Bombay, and Goa. And that was more about learning how different kind of Western musical instructions are being imparted, and also what are the forms of practices that we can witness. It was mainly initially that, okay, there will be some migration routes from Calcutta, Bombay, and Goa. That was the original plan. When I came to Goa for the first time, I realized I was actually blown over by, the choirs, and also like the string ensembles and everything. And I thought that, okay, I want to continue research in Goa.
Quantity wise or quality wise or what?
Quality, people, food, everything. Like I really liked Goa, and I thought that I wanted to work more on voice. Now then, Shillong, what happened was during that point of time, there was these reality TV shows and everything going on, and my would-be supervisor had actually told me if I've heard about this choir who is now gone to a reality TV show, and that was very new for me.
Nice.
So I looked them up. So initially, I was very curious what's happening. How is a sacred music now entering a popular realm, and what's really happening? But it's not a contrast. The book is not a contrast. The book is about how different regional flavors are bringing out different ways of being and dealing with music.
So what was your finding on Goa?
In Goa, what I did, even though I sang with the university choir, and the book, a major part of the book talks about that experience as well. But I also do a biography of some of the seminarians who went to Rashol Seminary in Goa. And some of them became priests, and some of them did not.
Yeah.
But all of them, I found, are connected to music in some way or the other. Either they have been, involved with earlier folk groups like Goan and Shillong, or family choirs like the Kota family choir, or they have founded the Stuti choral ensemble. Even if they have not been the main person behind running those shows, but they have been major influencers in keeping the tradition and the momentum alive. And the other thing that I found was that the idea of sacred in Goa is, of course, consciously curated. It comes from what they would want to keep and what they would want to leave out. There is, of course, now, archdiocese rules about what are the parameters of what, be it in terms of metric, be it in terms of rhythm, lyrics, all of that. Apart from that also, which motets or which hymns would go in and go out. Those are very, they are thought about, and then, curated.
But there is a bit of change also happening, because you find choirs performing in churches and things like that. So there seems to be some opening up on that front. Would you agree?
Yeah. So now what I'm also seeing, also the idea of this whole idea of indigenous, which is also something I talk about, and what is, say, Western, or what is a standardized idea of a choir, that also is, contested, because indigenous, like like, first of all, the identity cannot be something that is formulaic, that is just given. We all encounter ourselves in different moments, in different forms, through our colonial influences, through other encounters. So what is indigenous for Goa? Yeah, it might be certain Portuguese influences, certain Goan influences, and then there would be other places like, okay, this is more like, like the mandos are more prominent. Maybe the techniques are also coming in, but other folk songs are not coming in. So all those kind of things, you also see that there's a sense of identity which is, you cannot just say that this is it.
This belongs, this doesn't
That-
belong. It's
yeah.
very tough.
And I'm not also looking for a straitjacket answer to what is anybody's identity. I myself, I'm born into a Hindu Brahmin family, but I am researching a community which is completely different. And
so what you choose may not be what you ancestrally,
Yeah, and also it's not about. It's also like we
Identities
also
are fluid.
identities are fluid, and there is agency. It's not like we are like just absorb something that is given to us, which is a very wrong way to look at things. Okay, there has been an import and understanding of a certain kind of cultural sensorium, but what are we doing? What are we bringing to it? So that is what is I find in Goa, that they are bringing in their own agency, they are bringing in their own flavors and their own templates of making different kinds of musical innovations.
What's the scene of choir music like in Goa? How many choirs? How active? Some figures, some facts?
So right now, for example, Goa University Choir, unfortunately, we lost Santiago Lucetti.
The conductor passed away during the COVID, so that was very sad.
Yeah.
And
that was there. But I think the Stuti choral ensemble now has Parvesh Java, a conductor from Bombay, and it is thriving right now. And Stuti, I have seen that ever since, it has never stopped. It has always had people coming and going. Apart from that, there are, of course, choirs of different kinds. There are choirs performing for weddings, for funerals. Even institutional choirs, like I've also been to Goa Institute of Management Choir.
I see.
And, so the thing is that there are many kinds of choirs.
Some small village ones, which are
some
all over the
city
place.
ones. But this study was not just about a demography of choirs, but it was more about how a choral tradition represents lives and community sentiment of a place. Yeah.
And you would say that the Goan choirs do it within a community sense, or?
It is very much a part of what gives me a sense of how the community comes alive, and people may leave and go through it. It's not like they might not make a career out of a choir, but most of them must have been part of the choir at some point in their lives, because it's also something that we grow up with. So yeah.
Introduce us to your book.
Introduce.
Yeah, I mean, like, what is the scheme of chapters that it follows? And
right. So my book basically talks about how we can look at a community imagination through the lens of choir, like I said, and it has one chapter dedicated to Goa, like this biography of seminarians and how their lives have taken shape and how the musical processes have emerged accordingly. The other one chapter is dedicated to Shillong, where I actually do non-participant observation and green room ethnography with one of the choirs, because that was the restriction, where I could only meet them before and after a concert, because they were a bit of a celebrity choir. So I had to, regulate my approaches as per their comfort as well. So that's there. And then I talk about this whole notion of what is indigenous, what is fragmented identity, what is community, what is Western music, how do these different kinds of cultural practices, are they mere mimicking of the Western standardized format, or are they bringing in something else? And also questions of decoloniality, which is a very ongoing thing right now in academia, at least. And what do I talk about a music which is deemed to be colonial? How can we wrestle it and say that, okay, but there are some decolonial processes that are happening as well. And finally, there's a chapter on voices where through different kinds of voices, I talk about the hierarchy of voices, which I realized by being in a choir, and how the sopranos, the alto, the tenor and the bass, how they feel about, the soprano diva voice, or the alto being more, versatile in terms of going into more other genres and all of this. So I would say this book is a way to engage with the people to understand what is the meaning of a genre, and how can we look at voice and genre as social objects, and they are fluid, they are fertile, and we need to learn more about people and the communities that they are making together with all this.
One personal question: which is your favorite choir in India today?
I would just be safe and say Goa University Choir, because I sang with them.
Very diplomatic. What are the lessons that Goa can learn from a place like Shillong? See, because there's a bit of envy there. No, we have so much music talent here, but those are the guys who package it very well. Unfortunately, their founder passed away. And
Yeah.
that, but
So I guess it depends on what you want. Like, for example, what they wanted was, they initially started out as a home school and they wanted to do only Western opera and things like that. But who are the audience? And who would support those kind of big stage production? But what they did is, they realized that, okay, if we need to talk to the Indian audience, maybe Bollywood is a good angle to it. So they what I call their work is Bollywood Broadway, and they have even started their own production house to teach people how to get into production, so that they can self-train. One observation about Shillong is that what I see them is they have their own studios, and they encourage their students to continue their own studios. So it's like
recording studios, or
recording studios, teaching studios, media houses, production houses. Like, you learn, tomorrow you teach.
I see.
So it
builds up an
grows.
ecosystem.
Yeah. So that's one
Very
observation. Yeah.
Which are the other centers for choirs in India, which probably are not noticed because they are not big enough, but noteworthy?
So in fact, when I went to Meghalaya, they told me, why are you studying us? You should go to Mizoram. They are the voices. They are the main people. And I kept hearing this from everyone in Meghalaya, even the choirs I spoke to. And I later went to Mizoram. I am doing some work with them. But the system of, in Mizoram, the system is very different. It's like the church is actually very much involved in the process of enabling the choir and patronizing the choir, and not patronizing, but providing patronage to the choir, and all of that. Those kind of support, I don't know if it's everywhere. Like, if choral music is treated as something at par with other genres of music which are seen as entertainment, not entertainment just for the sake, but also leisure, appreciation, and all of that, that will give it, that will probably make more space for it to grow and take on different forms. Like I don't know, like in like the Hillsong Choir, they have a different kind of branding outside. Like, they started off in
this is where
Hillsong Choir. I think it started off in Australia, but then they have counterpart in UK and all of that. But in the Northeast, especially, I can talk about Meghalaya, Mizoram, and Nagaland. They kind of go for that kind of branding, that kind of things also. Otherwise, there are also, Chota Nagpur and areas also, they have their choirs. I have not gone and looked into it. And then, Zoe Sherinian has a book on Tamil Christianity and choir singing and all of that. So there are lots of work. And even in Bangalore, and now currently I'm in Bangalore, there's the Bangalore Men, they have become a very influential choir. So it's just that there are many choirs.
Paranjyoti in the past, no, which was huge.
Paranjyoti, yes, in Bombay. Bombay
Yeah.
has a huge,
Yeah.
that is true. Bombay has a huge choral scene. Like Paranjyoti choir was there, the Newman choir was there, and I think there, even now, Living Voices, and there are so many other choirs. Again, Hannah Marsden had worked on Bombay music scene. She had not focused on choirs per se, but she was looking at certain aspects of it. During my timeline, there was Rupert Avis, who was looking at works in Chennai, but more from an economic, social economy perspective. And there was Joanna, who looked at Mizoram and funeral singing and things like that. So yeah, lots of people are working on choral music. Some of their books are in processes. Some of them have at least finished with their dissertation, and they are all available as well. And they are very important work to understand this kind of tradition.
What would be your advice, Sebanti, to a place like Goa in terms of packaging itself, in terms of making a bigger dent, or in terms of popularizing choirs? Any suggestions, since you've studied the field for such a long?
I personally feel it's the community's choice, and if they don't want to, it's not a race, or it's not a marketing cake. So I just feel that one thing that if they wish to make it, it's about, like, even Aradhan choir in Goa right now, they also do different kinds of things, and now they have invokes and this other entrenos, different kinds of things. So I believe in Goa, if it's a choir, they prefer a traditional choir, from what I have noticed, and they have their own way of doing it, and I feel it's pristine and it's gorgeous. So there's nothing to change that. But yeah, I don't know.
Your book is going to come in a short while. It has a prestigious foreign publisher. The only flip side, as you were saying, is that the cost of the book would be high, but then we are coming out with the Indian edition. Could you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, I am also in the process of knowing the details about it, but hopefully there will be a South Asian edition which will be priced at a reasonable rate, and it should be available to for bookshops as well as universities. And I will share my website link with you.
Which is, you know it offhand?
Yeah, it's www.bloomsbury.ac.in .us, because that is the place. But you will actually find it in all the four handles. And my ISBN is out. The book is not yet out. And I forgot to talk about my cover.
Please.
Yes, so I have to acknowledge Raisa Vaz, who sang with me in the choir in Goa University choir when we started out, and she was at that point of time a student of Goa Art College, and I had just talked to her that she used to show me her sketches, and I had always told her it's really nice if ever I write something big, I will ask you to do something for me, will you do it? And she was very kind and sweet, and we've kept in touch over the years. In the pandemic, I remember when the book deal came through, I was speaking to her after a long time, and she was still up for it, and I was like, wow, that is so cool. And she told me, but you have to give me the description, because you're saying you don't want a map of Goa. I said it will be how I imagined Goa. So if you look at the cover also, you will see that it has many aspects of Panjim also, like the guest house I used to stay in. There's of course the old Goa churches are there, then the ruins are there, the Goa University is there, the Archbishop's Palace is there. So you will see, but it's definitely not a map of Goa, but it's a map where I sort of figured out how I will make the journey about Goa come alive through the book, because there are so many aspects of Goa, and I'm sure the way I have written it, somebody else will completely interpret it in a very different way. But this was how I lived and experienced Goa, and it was fun.
We should carry a snapshot of the picture of your cover, which you just described. Thanks so much, Sebanti. It's been a lot of work. How many years?
So I enrolled in PhD in 2013.
But before that, MPhil?
I know. I think So
Almost a
technically,
decade, more
yeah,
than a decade.
2011 onwards.
Wow, 12 years, 12
Yeah,
years almost.
12 years. Yeah.
So thank you so much for all the work you've done. I mean, like interacting with you through email and some
Yeah.
queries. I don't know where we met or whatever. But
I
it's
think
been-
I owe you most of
No,
the connections.
rubbish. That's
But
not
that
true
is
at all.
true. I know half the
So,
people through you.
that should be cut.
Okay.
But anyway, thank you so much for
Yeah.
all the work you've done. Looking forward to much more work on your part. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you so
Sebanti.
much.